This is ACC Nation, your source for ACC sports coverage. Connect with us at accnation.net. Listen to our podcast and streaming radio. Watch us on YouTube and follow us on your favorite social media outlet. Now, here's Will and Jim.
Welcome to ACC Nation. That's Will Ochanen and our special guest, Jackie Frantrulli from Wahoo's 24/7. Oh, Jackie, what a way to start a weekend, end a week. There is so much to talk about here. Virginia apparently is for real. And you have been having discussions with people, among them CBS, about Virginia Cavaliers being that real team. Let's talk about this for a second. Just give us your experience being there at that game and watching this all unroll, and give us a little bit of background too. You shared some of this beforehand about your thoughts on this game and where you thought it was going to play out, so that we get that big picture.
Yeah, so if fans have heard me speak about this game preseason, I always write a game by game prediction story. And one of the things I said was this had the whole markings of a Virginia upset because Florida State was in a situation that they could look ahead to Miami, but also because of the way their schedule was lined up, they were going to have two cupcakes and a bye week. So I felt like this is a good opportunity for Virginia to gain some momentum. I always felt like this was a better chance for Virginia to win than even NC State. And that's what I kind of wrote in my prediction. That kind of changed when Brady Wilson was hurt. I didn't know about that O-line. That was a big question mark going in. And I actually, in my 5 takeaways post game, I actually wrote a little bit of an apology to that offensive line because I didn't know about their game. Because Drake Metcalf and Kevin Wigington, and I mean, even Jack Whitmer, I mean, he was the best graded pass blocker for this game, according to Pro Football Focus. I mean, he's been having two back-to-back great games. Last week, he also was, I think, the second best pass blocker for Virginia. So kudos to Jack Whitmer, who was a tight end 2 years ago, and look what he is now. He's meant to be the third right tackle because everyone else was hurt, or fourth right tackle because everyone else was hurt, and look, he's doing well for them. So I think that was something when you were watching the game, for me, it was like, oh, Virginia's winning in the line of scrimmage against Florida State? Okay, so this is when you start buying in a little bit. And that's what happened throughout the game. Now, the one thing that shocked me was Chandler Morris's decision making at times. I thought he was forcing things, especially in that second quarter, which is something that we haven't seen a lot from him because he usually is a very sound, calm presence. He usually makes the good decisions. But as the game went on, I mean, I told you before we started recording, I had 3 versions of the story ready to go by that second overtime. I had the story of them beating Florida State, because it looked like that was going to happen. And as the game went on, you still had that feeling they were going to make it through because the defense was making the stops and they weren't letting big explosive plays. They actually did a very good job. That was one of my keys to the game. And offensively, I mean, they just had playmakers. I mean, Trell Harris in that second quarter where he bobbled the ball and focused and caught it and then hustled past, I don't know how many defenders to get that first down. And then Jamari Taylor on the next play somehow got out of this group of Florida State defenders. You heard that hit, and he went and ran for the touchdown. I mean, they were making plays. So you still had that confidence in Virginia, but then you also remember the other close games in Tony Elliott's tenure that ended in heartbreak. So I had the story of them ending in another heartbreak. And then you also had the other story of when they can make that jump. And it was very intense covering that game because especially in overtime where one play can make a difference. And then just seeing the euphoria after the game, not just the fans. I mean, you can see that on television, but just it was like a sigh of relief for these players who some of these guys have been at Virginia since the first year of Elliott. Some of these guys have been at Virginia since their time with the shooting, right? And some of these guys have been through a lot. And it felt like you saw a little bit of a relief that they went on a national stage and showed where they are. So I felt like it was a catharsis a little bit for this program, especially when you saw the previews coming into the game. It was all about Florida State. Yes, there were some things about UVA kind of thrown in because of the offense and how they're being productive, but they still weren't talking about the success that Virginia's had. It was all what Virginia needs to do to overcome Florida State. It was never what Florida State needs to do to prevent the upset. And I think that kind of rubbed people a little bit the wrong way too. So I feel like it was a good moment for UVA.
So the two things that I want to say here. Number one, you just as a viewer and a listener here to this program, you just got a little bit of a taste about how much hustle is involved in sports journalism. The fact that Jackie had three stories ready to go that would drop immediately at the end of this game tells you how much work that is going on behind the scenes. So appreciate the work that you see when it does drop. The other thing is that I have been seeing this team and a couple of other teams in the ACC evolve. I dropped a message to Will saying this team is evolving, and you
Mhm.
can see it right in front of your eyes. You just pointed that out, Jackie, about that offensive line. It's like we were thinking all preseason and into the early part of the season, this was going to be a problem for Virginia. And it was just not, we just didn't feel like it was there. But that team as a whole is evolving. And, I know that makes Will happy. So I'm going to let Will roll with some questions here as in comments as well.
Yeah, I could go on with this game for a while, but I know we only have you for a short amount of time, Jackie, so I'll keep it limited. But one of the players I wanted to bring up that, quite frankly, was one of the defensive stars of the game is Jason Provard, who
Mhm.
his blitz leading to the first interception, that was just a phenomenal play. And then obviously the game-winning pick that led to one of the coolest photographs I've seen in a while. Just and it's not like, he comes from a big school. He comes from Morgan State. And that's the good part of the transfer portal to me.
Yeah, no, I was looking at Pro Football Focus and he had one of the best games. Him and Devin Neal. Devin Neal, I think, kind of went a little bit under the radar for Virginia this week because of Jason Provard having two takeaways in the game, but he had also his best game in the UVA uniform as well. He was actually the best tackler. Jason Provard, I believe, was second or third as the best tackler. I think Ethan Minter was one of those as well. So, yeah, I mean, Jason Provard kind of changed the tone of the game. I mean, his incredible interception where he tipped the ball to himself. I mean, Virginia was able to score on that. That's why they were able to go up ahead so quickly. And he also did a really good job in coverage. He was the best graded, according to Pro Football Focus, in coverage. And again, they didn't allow the explosive plays. That was a big key for the secondary, was because you looked at the Stanford game, they allowed two 60-yard completions, one for a touchdown. William Mary, they allowed that 79-yard touchdown as well. And you saw that happen a few times. And he did well in coverage. I mean, Deuce was having a great day for Florida State, but he didn't catch one on Jason Brevard. So I thought he did a very good job. And as someone who's adjusting to the nickel position, right? He came in as playing corner primarily before he transferred to UVA. And I mean, it's an adjustment period. That's been the thing. You talk about evolving. Virginia had over 30 new transfers, and several of them were hurt or still are hurt. Even in the secondary. I mean, Keenan Johnson still not played. Then you had Donovan Platt, Jordan Robinson, Christian Charles, and Emmanuel Carnley all missing some part of training camp. I mean, I don't think they all were together until the final week before the first game. That's little time for all these guys in the secondary to figure out how they play, what the communication is going to be. And if you look at those errors in the previous games, that's where it's happening. And Jason Provard is one of those guys who had to adjust to that position. And in the spring, they were so down in the secondary that he didn't play that much at nickel because he had to fill in at corner. I mean, they have three guys with ACL injuries in that cornerback room. So I think that's what you're seeing right now. You're seeing guys get comfortable playing with each other, but also in their new roles that they might not have been accustomed with where they came from. So that you can see that involvement in each of the players. I mean, Jason Provard, we knew his potential, but you saw it in a game like that. Because in a game like that, and I think this is where some people might not, for example, my five predictions, I said Virginia was going to control Florida State and defensively. And a lot of people took that I said that Virginia was going to stop Florida State on the run. That's not exactly what I meant. The way this Virginia defense will be plays is that they will control the damage. The other team will still get points, but it's about making the crucial stops to give the offense the keys to win the game. And that's what this defense did. They made those big plays. They forced the 3 takeaways. They made the stops on 4th down. They made the stops when they needed. I mean, that first stop coming out of the second half, crucial. And I think that's where you see this defense. And that's where Jason Pavard did that on Friday night. He made those crucial stops. He was the player who did that.
Sticking with portal related players, I'm going to go back over to the offense, and another person who had a good game, but as a receiver plus someone who you sung the praises of, especially his run blocking, is Jamal Edrine came over from Purdue. I think some of the success, obviously the success of the run game is a lot credited to the upgraded offensive line, but having a guy like Edrine who can run block just can only help.
I mean, he is still the highest graded pass blocker, a run blocker on Virginia's staff. That is not the O-line. And he was the best run blocker against Florida State. I mean, that guy is big. I would be intimidated if I was a DB trying to go after him, right? I mean, we all saw him maul that poor Stanford corner a couple weeks ago. And I think even at Florida State, the one thing that you shows a little bit of that experience, I can't remember, I think it was towards the end of the second half, he was blocking for Virginia and he was in an entanglement with one of the DBs for Florida State. And you saw that the Florida State guy, who we saw some issues with discipline against FSU, they were kind of playing with high emotions and they couldn't control that. You saw the experience that Jamal Edrine had and the way he was, I don't want to say taunting because that's not the correct word, but when he was blocking so physical that it almost propelled the Florida State guy to act back, which would have caused a flag. So you see that level of experience that Jamal Edrine has. He knows how to play the game, not just on the field, but also mentally against your opponent. He's very good at that. And I mean, when you look back at some of those key runs, you notice who's blocking ahead of you. It's usually Jamal Edrine. I think Eli Wood had 1 or 2 blocks in the previous games where you see Jamari Taylor kind of take off. And that's been a difference because when you see the O-line, and it's something that you got to give all the shout out to Des Kitchings. He's been calling a great couple games and has been smart in how he utilizes his personnel. When you look at some of those short gainage that they have, look at how they set up that O-line. Sometimes they brought in, a guy like Ben York to come in for a snap. John Rogers came in for a snap, and they kind of put a lot of extra guys up front. But there are times what he did was he put Sage Ennis lined up on the line. And then they used the tight end sets, but they also put Jamal Edrine there. That's been the difference, is how they utilize those big bodies and the guys that are really good with blocking, because that's been able to get the run game going. They notice if there's a weakness at any point, or they kind of help that side. So it's been very good. Like when you watch, like focus on the line. It's been quite interesting to see what Des Kitchings has been able to come up with so they can rush. I mean, they rushed for 211 yards against Florida State. And Florida State on paper was meant to have a good run defense. And Virginia wasn't getting contact until 3 yards in. So that's 3 yards already. And then Jamari Taylor, I mean, you got to hit him 5 times before he comes down. So he was always getting more yardage after.
Another person on offense, you mentioned Sage Ennis a little bit ago. I mean, he's been around for quite a few years, has always been kind of a backup, but these last couple of games, especially caught the touchdown in this game, plus he's made a couple nice catches, plus he's blocked. This is another underrated player. Now that he's been healthy, that's been a problem in his career, but the fact that he's been healthy has been a huge addition for this offense as well.
He was so missed last year. I mean, when he went down against Coastal Carolina, you noticed that Tyler Neville's role adjusted last year because it was meant to be Tyler Neville was going to be the pass catching tight end and Sage Ennis was going to be the blocker for the run game. That was kind of their roles. And that had to change when Sage Ennis went down. And you notice they just had the best running game against Coastal Carolina. And then that kind of died down a little bit for the rest of the season. You can't just say it was one player, but they had to change things around, right? Because they didn't have someone that they can go on the line, and especially when the offensive line had still some depth concerns last year. Sage Ennis was going to play a crucial game plan. Then this year, It feels like all the little pieces are coming together. I probably should knock on wood, light every the Catholic candles that I can so that something doesn't happen. But it feels like all the pieces are coming together for Virginia. You have an O-line that has depth. You have Sage Ennis, who was the third graded run blocker for this game. Eli Wood was second with his limited snaps. I think he had about 6 or 7 snaps in the game. So, but for two guys that were starting most of the game, it was Jamal Edgerrin and Sage Ennis were your two best run blockers in this game. And what is also different this year is Sage Ennis, a guy who I think he had one catch or zero catches in his career prior to coming to Virginia. He had single digits. He's had three in 3 games. So that's kind of added to his repertoire. And they've been using that. I mean, he's got a good frame, he runs good routes. And he's got good chemistry with Chandler Morris. And that's been fun to see because you're seeing those tight ends being utilized, Sage Ennis and Dakota Tweedy. And you can see the difference in how they have the balanced offense. I mean, this is the offense that both Des Kitchings and Tony Elliott has been talking about since they arrived in Charlottesville.
Well, Jackie, we asked you to come in for 15 minutes. And so I'm not going to push that limit too much further here, but I do want to know something. Uh, you took a look at this team. You made some projections about where you thought they were going to go based upon what you knew and what, all of us knew at the very beginning, which, with the transfer portal and stuff, we didn't know a lot, but we're seeing stuff come to fruition. Tell me today where you see this team headed and what potential is there, and maybe as fans, should people be readjusting their expectations of the Cavaliers?
Yeah, I feel like I know Virginia fans well enough by now that they hope for the best, but they always plan for the worst. I feel like I know Virginia fans well enough now.
So
Uh,
true.
I predicted 7 or 8 wins this year. I had gone for 7. That was where I was not impressed with their preseason rankings from when I ever saw the ACC. I thought they were going to be a little higher, probably around 6 or 7. That was where I was kind of thinking Virginia was. Seeing them this year, I think they're a little bit better than I expected. I still have questions on the defense because obviously I expected Florida State to score. I mean, I had a high scoring game when I predicted the game, but I still have questions on there. The O-line is not a concern as far, but guys need to be healthy, right? I mean, Drake Metcalf did a great job at center, but the right side's like if someone gets hurt there, you're in a very dire strains. So they need to stay healthy. I think there is higher expectation now. I think 7, 8 wins is where I'm still leaning on. The only reason I say that is because I still don't know what Duke is. I'm still questioning what Duke am I going to see. And Louisville is an interesting one because I don't know, I think the running back left the game early against Pitt injured. So my concern was with him was controlling him. Virginia has done well somewhat in the run defense, except Florida State kind of went away with the run for a little bit, which was kind of surprising to me too. So that was more of a coaching decision, or I don't know, Castellano. They did a lot of RPOs and they didn't run. So it was very interesting decisions that happened with Florida State. But if Louisville decides to keep running, would that be an issue for Virginia? And Cal is a game where I don't like it for Virginia because you've got to go out west. And that's a lot of extra things. And that's actually a game which I, in my preseason prediction, pointed that it's the other way around, where I think that's a bad game for Virginia, just because of logistics. A lot of teams struggle when they go out west. So I can see that being a problem. So that's why I still think it's 7, 8 games for UVA right now. But again, I would not be shocked if at the end, and we're talking here, and they're one of the teams that by the last 2, 3 games are fighting for a spot in an ACC championship game just because of how their schedule lines up. I mean, they've got a very favorable schedule. So, I mean, North Carolina, I think I would pick Virginia right now. Duke is the one I don't know. Wake Forest, I'll pick Virginia. Washington State, I'll pick Virginia. Louisville, I will most likely pick Virginia going into the Louisville game. So in Virginia Tech, I'll pick Virginia, even though I should know better by now. But this is the year where you think they could win. So if you look at it, I'm like, oh, I say 7 wins, 8 wins. Well, you know what? They could probably win out too. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. So I guess if I'm a UVA fan And I'm hoping for the best and thinking worst. I'll go with 7 wins.
Okay. Now, since we're getting close to Halloween, spooky season and whatnot, I'm going to pick up my imaginary eight ball here. I'm
Okay.
going to shake it, and I want you to share. I'm shaking my magic eight ball. I want you to share what your projection was for the score of this game.
48-36 Florida State. Shoulda stuck with my preseason prediction of Virginia winning.
Yep. Ah,
I know, I know, I know. I would have angered Knowles 24/7 board a lot more than I did by saying that Chandler. I would. One of my predictions was Chandler Morris would get the edge over Thomas Castellanos. That was one of my things. That if I match up from position to position, I would go with. I would always choose Chandler Morris. I got some of them very angry from the by that, but I
that's
still remember Castellanos playing at Virginia
yeah.
when he was at Boston College, which was the last time, by the way, that the Virginia defense had two picks. So that was the last time they had two picks. They just like playing Castellanos.
Yeah, there you go. I think Chandler is again, he's somebody who's maturing. He needs to take a deep breath, relax, start seeing that whole field, and he's going to be one dangerous dude if he's not already considered that. So,
He's
Jack,
I saw something that he was the highest rated QB right now.
yeah, amazing.
Yep, I saw that too.
So Heisman campaign, can we start it?
Yeah.
Why
You
not?
probably know some people in social. Let's get it done.
Get it done.
Look, if Texas can start one for somebody who, well, never mind. I'm not going to get into that. I have a beef with that whole thing. Anyway, sure, why not? Let's start right here, right now. It works for me. The publisher of Wahoo's 24/7, Jackie Ventrulli, who has been gracious enough to stop in, join us for a couple of minutes, share her thoughts and experiences of this Virginia Florida State game on Friday. Thank you so much, Jackie. I really do appreciate you coming by and
Absolutely.
talking to us and sharing some of these thoughts and stuff. It's always nice to get your perspective and in your analysis on games and how Virginia is doing, and especially with this sort of moment in time.
No, I appreciate it. It's fun when the team is having fun and winning. It's always fun to cover something like this and just the environment of that day. Like I know a lot of fans say like it's great feel like as a reporter too, you kind of feel it too. Your adrenaline gets pumping as well when you're trying to beat your deadline, right? You want your story to be published, and it's always nice when that story is on a positive end. So thanks for having me.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thanks again to Jackie for stopping by and talking to us about the Florida State and Virginia game. The final on that 46-38 Virginia. Two overtimes. Will, what do you think about that outcome?
Yeah, Jackie did a phenomenal job of assessing the game. And contrary to what happened a couple of years, remember when Virginia went to UNC and beat a top 10 Tar Heel team? That seemed way more flukish than this game. This kind of cemented Virginia as legit. The way they bullied Florida State, as Jackie talked about in the trench, especially against the run,
Mhm.
and Jamari Taylor just having guys bounce off him like he was like he had the invincibility thing in Super Mario and getting some big plays. And I I mentioned this on Twitter. I think this win was much needed for the program, given where it's been under Tony Elliott. Remember how it was cut short a few years ago with the tragedy of the three football players, and that was something I tweeted out after the game. I was thinking about those three and how excited they would have been to witness such a moment because this has not happened very much under Tony, especially at home, and seeing so many fans storm the field after such a momentous game. I think it was very cathartic in a way for the program. And as I said on our TikTok, now that you're Virginia, you've got to build on this.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely an emotional release. And you could see it. There's some slightly inappropriate behavior on the part of one or two people out there, but hey, you know, emotions get the better of all of us. Um, let's move on to our next game. This was this was an insane weekend of football. Louisville with a 34-27 win over Pitt. Now Pitt really had this game wrapped, as far as I'm concerned, and then out of nowhere, Louisville threw the light switch on and said, "Nah, I don't think so. I think we're gonna take this game."
Yeah. Yeah, no, Pitt came out 17-0. They had that 75-yard pick six where you remember that was one of those highlight moments of the week because you saw the ball boy trying to take the ball away from him after that. That was so
It
funny.
didn't work out.
And he got the ball and he tweeted it out. He's like, I got the ball and Louisville got the dub. But um it's interesting because Miller Moss played well in this game, but I don't know how much, he threw three touchdown passes over 300 yards, but
Hmm.
Pitt's offense, like Holstein got out of the gate good, and then he threw two picks, got benched for Cole Gonzalez, and he threw a pick. But Pitt, man, losing to that West Virginia team with three quarterbacks, going up 17-0 at home against Louisville and blowing it. And we should say in fairness, Des Reed was out for this game, and a lot of the offense goes through him. So that was a big thing as well.
All right, our next game did not end up the way that a lot of us anticipated that it would. And you had pointed out last week that having a backup quarterback because Angeli's out was probably not going to go well for Syracuse, and you were point on with that. Duke 38, Syracuse 3.
Yeah, this is something we talked about with Jackie. I don't remember if it was on the air or off the air, but Duke is kind of the head scratching team of the week or the season right now because we've seen them at their highs with a game like this, and we've seen them at their lows, losing to Tulane and committing five turnovers against an Illinois team that gave up 63 points the following week to Indiana. But it was all about turnovers. Duke or Syracuse turned it over three times in this game. They only had 314 yards of offense. And but the thing is, you seen Willis ran the ball well, but he only had 11 carries because they were behind so much they couldn't really run the ball. Again, they had Duke ran the ball 235 yards in this game, averaged over 6 yards per carry. Freshman Nate Shepard had 168 yards and two touchdowns, and it was a bludgeoning that I don't think anybody expected. I definitely thought this would be a close game.
Yeah, so did I. I will say this. We talked about Virginia evolving. I also see Duke evolving. Um, Watching the sideline and watching the coach and watching how the players are slowly but surely becoming more in sync with one another. I think we need to keep an eye on Duke. I think Duke is moving into that next level, and if they can continue to play like this, they're going to be a real terror. Um, our next game went into overtime, and I don't know what happened in this game other than there were a lot of mistakes, a lot of stupidity, and a lot of just flat play. Georgia Tech came out of it literally by the hair of their chinny chin chin, 30-29 over Wake Forest. And let me tell you something. Why Dickert called for a 2 point point after attempt here. I I was like, what? What are you doing? This is not the time to do that. And they blew it. I mean, they had a chance to literally upset Georgia Tech and blew it. And that was a bad call. So, but Georgia Tech, man, you almost gave that game away. I mean, you literally were handing it to the Deacs on a silver platter.
Hmm. I'm gonna come back to that 2 point conversion call in a second, but yeah, Georgia Tech. This was one of my favorite podcasts, Solid Verbal. They have a saying called "Win your clunkers." This was definitely a clunker for Georgia Tech. They came back from 17 down to win. It was one of the biggest comebacks in school history. Again, because of Haynes King, 243 through the air, 106 on the ground. But yeah, a lot of the things came on Wake's side. Robbie Ashford got hurt in this game, was out for a period of time. They brought in the backup. And I actually think the 2 point conversion was the right call there. Like I said, Ashford was hurt, and even not at 100%, he was better than the backup at that point. And especially with Demond Claiborne going down on that touchdown, I don't think they were going to survive the second over or another overtime. Honestly, I think that was the right call to me. And we don't know obviously the injury to Claiborne, and if that's a significant injury, then that just torpedoes any chance Wake has of winning many more games this year.
Right.
I will say, however, you mentioned the stupidity, Jim. It's not just limited to the combatants. How do you miss that offsides on Georgia Tech?
You don't.
See, that was a big difference maker. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say Wake would have won the game because of it, but their chances would have greatly improved had they called that
Yeah.
offsides. It was an egregious mistake.
Yeah. Yeah. It's staggering to me. I mean, I'm sitting there looking at it going, where's the flag? Where's the flag?
Mhm.
Where's the flag? And he takes one step back right as they snap the ball. And I don't know whether the refs were looking at, I don't know what the heck they were looking at. I mean, but at least the conference, this is the one thing I will say. Being transparent here, the ACC came out and said our ref crew made a mistake here. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. Now, the one thing that I'm missing here in a lot of these other games that are ACC games, we're not getting the behind the scenes action like we did on some of the earlier games when there is a review. And I don't know if they're just doing it on limited games, but it ought to be on all of the games. I think it moves things along quicker and it gives everybody an opportunity to say, oh, that's why this makes sense, and they've got this video evidence to show. I think that's a great thing. I think that's fantastic, and everybody has been lauding that. Bring it totally across the board on every single game, every broadcast. It should be there. So, next game, Cal over Boston College. Wow, what a battle! 28-24, the final there.
Definitely was wrong about this game. I thought Boston College would win because of the cross country travel for Cal, but I don't think that's as big of an issue as it is the teams going to get to the other side of the country. But these two teams have struggled to run the ball all season long, and surprisingly, both teams ran the ball well here. Kendrick Raphael for Cal, 113 yards and a touchdown. Turbo Richard, 171 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had like an 85-yard run or something like that. It was he was awesome. And it's not like he ran the ball in just that one play. He was consistently getting yardage on that Cal defense. I think the game, I mean, obviously, Dylan Lonergan had a game-winning interception in the end zone late, and it was very reminiscent of the Virginia North Carolina State game where threw it in the end zone where picked, but there was a guy open just short of the end zone that would have at
Right.
least kept the game alive for Boston College for at least one more play. Because if I remember correctly, they had one timeout left.
Yes.
And that would have at least set him up, inside the five, probably about the 1 or 2 yard line. I'm not, and he could have gotten in too, but another issue for this game, lots of penalties. Cal, 11 penalties, 92 yards. Boston College, 15 penalties in this game. And my math tells me you are not going to win a lot of games and you commit 15 penalties.
No. Stop it. I'm sure the coach is like furious.
Oh, Bill
Um,
O'Brien he's saying some words that cannot be said on a family friendly show.
yeah, I noticed, and hey, I'm not a lip reader, but boy, I could read his lips.
Yeah.
Um, Virginia Tech with a surprising win, and Hokie fans are probably going, why is it surprising? Well, it's surprising because of everything that's gone on prior to this, and you know, it's the outcome of this game is really making people question hard Dave Duran. And I think with good reason. Virginia Tech 23, NC State 21.
Yeah, State, as I saw, it was like a 10-point favorite coming into this game, and just like they made the Hokies look really good in this game. Congratulations to Philip Montgomery, who in one chance equaled the number of wins Brent Pry had in one score games. Took him one game to do it. And he almost blew it because they had like fourth and inches from I don't remember exactly where it was, but they punted. And I thought that was gonna cost Virginia Tech the game, but they ended up getting the stop they needed to win the game, so it didn't matter. But and the Tech ran the ball in this game very well. Terry Stewart, 174 yards. He had 8 carries of at least 10 yards,
Mm-hmm.
and they sacked C.J. Bailey 5 times. I had that defense. It was 5 sacks. That looked very vintage for Virginia Tech. Now I'm not going to sit here and say they're going to turn around and do this every game, but for once it looked very impressive. And yeah, this is a very embarrassing loss for State because they are the better team, and they let a team with an interim coach come into their house and beat them.
Yeah. Stanford, you want to talk about pulling something out of your rear? Oh my gosh. San Jose State owned Stanford most of the night, um, literally. And Stanford, they kept fighting, and kept fighting, kept pushing and pushing and pushing. Literally came down to the last few seconds of the game, and they win 30-29.
Yeah, Stanford scored the game-winning touchdown with 19 seconds left, as you mentioned. San Jose State was ahead for most of this game and blew a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter. Both quarterbacks actually threw for over 400 yards in this game. Ben Gulbranson, 444 yards, 2 touchdowns. And I mean, I'm not going to say a ton about Stanford in this game because you were dominated by a Mountain West school for most of this game and needed a run in the final seconds to win. But hey, you got the win. That's win number 3 on the season, I believe. Is that it?
Um, I thought it was two, but
Or maybe it is 2.
yeah.
But even still, that's hey,
See,
we were talking 0 and 12 after they lost to Hawaii. Now they've got a couple. So
yeah. So yeah, starting to show a little something here. I don't know what's going on there, and I don't think that we're going to see the type of evolution we've talked about earlier
yeah.
happening here this year. But keep an eye on Stanford.
Mhm.
I think that what they're doing out there, program wise, this is going to be this program is going to come back. It's just a matter
And
of
you
time.
were right. This was their second win of the season. And ironically, they scored 30 points in both wins.
How about that? That's their magic number. All right, let's give our picks here at the last possible moment. We've got a couple of nooners. Boston College at Pitt at 12 o'clock, ACC Network. Who are you going to take in that one?
Uh, Pitt because it's at home.
Pitt here as well. Clemson at North Carolina on ESPN.
If Clemson loses this game, we're going to have a real discussion.
Oh, serious discussion. And yeah, there'll be a serious discussion down in Clemson. Oh man, at 1 o'clock, it's Wake Forest at Virginia Tech. That's going to be on the CW.
Hokies win their third in a row.
How about that? All right. Up next is Campbell at NC State on ACC Digital Network.
Campbell will not be a hump for NC State in this game.
God.
If you know
Syracuse.
Campbell's mascot, you get it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, I gotta have the monkey with the rim shot going here. Uh, Syracuse at SMU, 3:30 on the ACC network.
I'm going to take SMU in this game. I just think they're the better team, especially with Syracuse having a backup.
Yep, same here. SMU. It's home game. This game was finally locked in at 3:30. It's Virginia at Louisville. That's on ESPN2.
Hart wants to take Virginia. Head's going to take Louisville. This is I fear a little bit of a letdown spot here after that big win by Virginia, so I'm going to take the Cardinals to hand
Oh,
Virginia their first conference loss.
contraire, my friend. Virginia goes in pumped up and
Mm.
pulls off a very nice win against Louisville. So I'm taking Virginia. See now, this guy is like, you know, just going against you guys. Just going against. He's not a true who. All right, who's up next? Miami and Florida State, 7:30 on ABC. This ought to be a fun game, but I don't think it's going to be as fun as people anticipate it to be.
Yep. There is a weird sicko part of me that can see Florida State winning this game, A, because it's in Tallahassee, and B, I think after what just happened to them losing to Virginia and being knocked unceremoniously 10 spots in the AP poll, that was just way too many spots. I felt that they are up for this game, but one of the things we talked about, I believe, was offline with Jackie, is I just don't think Florida State's D line is going to be a match for Miami's O lines. I think Mark Fletcher has a big day and Miami wins this one.
Miami wins this one, but I think it's going to be a nice battle
Hmm.
because Florida State is, it's a pride thing at home, you know,
Hmm.
and they want to show that they're not out of it. So they'll put up a nice battle, and we'll see if there's any stupid decisions made by coaching staff on either side.
The Mario factor.
Yes. All right, our last game is the 10:30 on ESPN. That's Duke at Cal. This could be an interesting matchup. A dynamic Cal and equally dynamic Duke. Who win?
This game got a lot more interesting, like than I anticipated it to be, just because Jaron Calais-Sakaboutelli's played so much better than a lot of people expected this year. Um, I see the thing with me is I don't know which version of Duke I'm going to get for this game. If I knew, I could give you a better answer. I think I'm going to take Cal because this one's at home, and this game being game starting at what would be 10:30 Eastern, and I think this is a weird spot for them. So yeah, give me the Golden Bears at home to go 5-1.
Hmm. Wow. Okay. This is one of those for me. But I'm not gonna wuss out and not pick. I'm gonna take Duke, and Duke is gonna pull out a very close win because I think, as you point out, Will, that Cal is all that in a bag of chips and are proving it, and they're pretty close to getting over the hump and getting, one step closer to having that bowl lock in. So I just think Duke is overall. I think they're better. Cal's home advantage is critical. That trip across the country, I'm not sold all the time that that's that much of an influence. I think it is more east to west than it is west to east. But yeah, who knows? Um,
Yeah. If this is like noon Eastern game and Cal was traveling to Duke, I would take Duke without hesitation. But
yeah, yeah, yeah. In that case, all right. That's a look at what's coming up, and I hope that you'll join us on TikTok, Instagram, X, YouTube and Facebook and a lot of other things like Blue Sky. We're there. Want to see you. Come join us. Make sure that you subscribe to our podcast and to subscribe also to our YouTube channel. Listen to us on streaming radio. We're available 24/7. Go to accnation.net. Till next time, cheers.
School.
ACC Nation, your source for ACC sports coverage with Will and Jim. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on our podcast, streaming radio, and YouTube. Connect with us on Blue Sky, Reddit, Instagram, Threads, Mastodon, Facebook, X, and LinkedIn.